What's up, guys? Welcome back to the abandoned church. Today we are going to be working on some inside stuff because it is one nasty sleet, snow, nasty day out there. I did want to clear up a couple things I failed to mention in the last video when I was ripping up all the sidewalk outside there. I ripped that out and I put that slope on it to get the water away from the building. What I failed to mention was that was just all temporary. A lot of you guys thought I was just gonna leave that permanently. That's no solution, I know that. It's gonna get rain gutters on the whole building, and it's gonna get French drain around the whole building, and also gonna seal up the foundation after I fix it. So we should be nice and dry downstairs in the basement, not have to deal with any water in the future. But I wanted to clear that up because I had a lot of comments about that. Alright, so welcome to the 4th episode of the Abandoned Church series. If you haven't seen this series from the beginning, I'm putting a link up there in the right hand corner right now. You can click on that and go to the playlist and check out all the stuff that's going on before this. But anyway, what's going on today is I am making preparations to support the building here so that I can start to repair this foundation. And basically we're going to be installing a support beam. And so after we install this I-beam, that's going to take the load of the ceiling and the walls, and we are going to go outside and start digging up the bad foundation wall so that we can knock it out and replace it. Also, worth mentioning, this is going to become like a mini-series within the series, so this is going to be part 1 of fixing the bad foundation wall, and it's just such a big project that I couldn't possibly fit it into one video. It would be hours long, so this is part 1, and look for the future parts coming up. Come on, another inch. Alright, so I guess at this point I should share my plan with you here. I've pulled all these materials in here, and what I'm hoping to do is get this 12-inch I-beam over there about 1.5 feet, 2 feet from that wall that's bowed out. And then the beam's obviously pretty heavy, so in order to get it up to the ceiling height and me to get the jacks underneath of it, we're going to use the blocks, build towers. So we'll start out with 2. Lift one side, put a block under it, lift the other side, put a block under it, block, 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 all the way, and walk it all the way up to the ceiling, at which point we can slide the jacks underneath of it and tighten them up. So that should take the load from the ceiling, but it is a brick veneered building. But looking at the outside structure, the way the brick's all held together and everything, there is one crack up through the brick, but I don't believe this wall is really holding much anyway, so I don't think the brick's going to go anywhere. It should hold itself. As long as we don't do any big jarring or anything, it should be fine. I'm going to take out one section at a time here. So this doorway here has a lintel above it. The lintel is supported by the wall on both sides and holds the joists and the brick on the outside of the building. So I'm going to frame this in right here and pour that doorway solid, tying it into this wall over here that is still good. This wall over here, I'm going to leave, there's an old piece of the door frame in here, piece of 1x. I'm going to leave that there so the concrete doesn't get attached to this part of the wall, because this part's coming out. Same thing with this window well here, and this is what really caused a lot of our problems down here, is these windows were so deep for whatever reason that didn't leave a lot of strength in the foundation. So when the water was laying up against it and freeze thawing, it cracked right around that window, bulged in, terrible as you can see. So that's just wood, that'll come out, that's not doing anything. And then this piece right here, over to here, it's cracked all the way through. That piece should just come right out. And after I dig out the outside, I'll pull that out, find the footer, clean the footer off real well, frame that, what was the window, in with plywood and stuff, frame that in, pour it solid from the outside so as that it catches the lintel up there and supports the floor. Then I'll either do this section from the window to the corner or between these two. I'll probably do the smaller section first, that way we get even more stability over here to do this bigger section. I think this is about 8 feet here between the window and the doorway. So I'm pretty confident that this is gonna work. Looking at the block, I mean, you can run over there and shake that. I don't want to, but I've wiggled it just enough to know that there's no pressure on it. It's really not doing anything as it is. So I'm pretty confident the building's not gonna go anywhere, and pretty confident we're gonna be able to save this. Me and Brad were just trying to get this beam hoisted up here with the block method, and it was working pretty good, except we're up so high now that the blocks are starting to get a little sketchy. When you lift one end, the beam wants to fly off, so we're gonna have to regroup and figure something else out here because we're close, but not close enough. All right, so we had to change our plans here a little bit. It got a little sketchy doing the teeter-totter method. So what I didn't want to put all the weight on this bad wall by jacking it up, like connecting to the joists and pulling it up to the ceiling. I didn't want to put the weight on the wall, so we cheated. We put the posts underneath the joists that we're connected to now, and we'll crank this thing up to the ceiling with these ratchet straps. And after she's up there, we'll reset the blocks underneath of it, take the weight back off the straps, pull the jacks out, stick them underneath the beam. Should be good to go. So we'll start cranking her up there. All right, here we go. We're gonna crank her up with the old ratchet straps. I'm gonna get my slacker in the back side. Try to watch your slack.
Easy. Down I go. Make sure the blocks don't fall.
Beauty.
Alright.
Let's try and resituate the beam. See how she's sitting crooked? Try and take the beam. Just like that, right? Good job.
Yep.
Oh, look, the strap's gonna make it.
Alright, hold on.
Alright.
Lord. No Lord tiles.
All right, I just got the second post in here. Got my post level on it. She's looking good. Good and level. If you don't keep these things nice and level, you put a lot of pressure on it. If something were to happen and it'd have to take a load, you know, the post could kick one way or another. So you're gonna get the most strength out of something like this if it's perfectly straight up and down. So that's what I'm aiming for. I'm just gonna leave the ratchet straps up there for when I have to take it back down. So I'll tighten up the post a little bit more. I'm gonna have to get a crescent, or not a crescent wrench, a pipe wrench on those threaded ends up there because those little teeny bars can't crank on them very much. And then we'll get to work here. I came down here to the church today with the intention of digging out the foundation on the real bad side, the spot that's crumbling and bowed in and just ready to collapse. So it's real cold today, and I'm guilty of not shoveling the tracks on the excavator the last time I was down here. I'm usually pretty good about that because it's a real pain in the butt if they freeze, and they are really, really dirty and really, really frozen. So I got the hoe warming up right now. I just started it up, jumped back in the truck to stay warm, and hopefully we're going to be able to break these tracks loose so we can actually do something today. So if you live in a winter climate or deal with a winter climate, you know how much winter can suck, and this is one of those reasons winter sucks. Don't get me wrong, I love winter too, but it's so cold and miserable out there, and the tracks are froze. Ugh. Anyway, let's hope we can get these tracks broke loose. Alright, so I got the tracks freed up. There's the excavator coming around the corner there. And we're going to start digging out this area here where the foundation is completely just foobar. And I'm going to have to be super, super careful while I'm digging here, because if I put any pressure while I'm digging onto this wall, it's just going to blow it out. I mean, this wall is literally, it's amazing it's held together as long as it has. So what I'm going to do is just take nice little thin strokes, taking off 4 or 5 inches at a time, until we get down. It's about 4.5 feet, I think, right in here. And I'm also not going to open this up very much either. I want to keep this narrow, keep it over closer to the wall. Probably going to dig a channel about even with the outside of this window well, and then leave that dirt over there. I'll peel that dirt off by hand and then dig it out of the hole with the machine, because I don't want to put any pressure on this wall. Before I really start digging too, there's something I forgot I wanted to mention. I absolutely did a one call before I started digging on this property. I've had a lot of questions about that and some of the comments on the other videos about the church. Every time I'm doing any kind of serious digging below just topsoil grade, I'm always doing a one call, because you never know what you're going to run into under the surface. And even though you do the one call, sometimes that still doesn't mean that you're not going to run into anything. So you always got to kind of be proceeding with caution, because you never know what the real story is under the surface. Okay, first things first, before the OSHA Nazis get to me, I know that technically this ditch isn't safe. This is good material. This clay is what I'm very familiar with. It doesn't cave off unless you in some really, really wet conditions, and the wet materials where I just dug all this stuff over here, the pile's sitting on, it's good dry material, and even this dirt that I'm digging up isn't soaking wet or anything, so should be fine. I'm not going to be down in this hole hardly anyways. The only time I'm going to be down in here is right now while I'm digging off this this dirt that's still up against the wall. So this is the old gas line. I knew that was in there. I was not surprised at all when I hit it. So it's dead, obviously. Otherwise this would have been a big problem. But let's get down in here and scrape the dirt off the walls. Okay, I just felt a tooth slide on the foundation down there, or on the footer rather, so we know that we're deep enough now. So let's get down in there one last time, pop that last bit of dirt away from the walls, and we'll clean it out and smooth the bottom up. Alrighty then. Ugh. So here's what she looks like now that she's dug out. A little bit of cattywampus there on the wall, huh? This is the frost that was causing all those problems in the first place. It's kind of cool to expose it and see what it was really doing. There's that frost heaving was shoving this wall over, and it was probably also, you know, just the huge load of the hydraulic pressure from the water sitting on it. But this is the poured footer down here. It, you know, from what I can see of it, it looks all right. It's not crumbling or falling apart or anything. The first course of block is actually still in place well. I know a lot of people will core fill their first course of block or have rebar coming up into it and tie it in, so maybe that's the reason the first course is so good. But at any rate, the first section I'm going to do here is this window well. We're going to tear that out of there, frame it up nice and plumb, and we're going to pour it solid. So one thing I did kind of screw up on doing this like this was this pile of dirt is about twice the size that I had pictured in my head, and partially that's because the ditch went about a foot deeper than I thought. But I should have just loaded this straight as I was digging it straight into my dump truck and then dumped it on the other side of the building. But because I have to work here now, you know, I'm gonna have to bring in a mixer, a pallet of cement, and tote of water. So I'm gonna go home and get the dump truck, and we'll load this and move it onto the other side. Alrighty, well that wraps up this week's video. If you guys liked the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the future videos coming up on the Abandoned Church series or any of the other series that I feature on my channel here. If you haven't, go ahead back to my main page and dig through some of my older videos. I've got a lot of cool videos that maybe you haven't seen yet. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you next week.